The 2015 Subaru Forester. The most award-winning small SUV with better fuel economy than competing models. And the certainty down the road you expect from a Subaru. The 2015 Subaru Forester. It's a whole lot to love.
Come see what everybody loves at Cruise Subaru. And maintain the love with complimentary maintenance included only at Cruise Subaru on Rivers.
In Mount Pleasant, we don't limit happiness to an hour. We let it stretch out wide. From sunrise tea times on world-class courses to afternoon walks through history and evenings at some of the country's best restaurants. All this in just 5 minutes to the beach and downtown Charleston. Set your watch to happy time, y'all, and come on over.
Good evening from Blackbaud Stadium here in Charleston, South Carolina. It's the final night in the Carolina Challenge Cup. Good evening, everybody. I'm Matt Peterson from the Houston Dynamo alongside Paul Tenorio, the beat writer for Orlando City with the Orlando Sentinel. Paul, day 3 of this tournament, it's been a good tournament so far.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I think Orlando City a little disappointed they didn't get that second game in, just 26 minutes of play. You know, every minute matters right now going into their first season as an expansion side. But otherwise, you know, this has been a very good test for them. That game against New York City, they were really happy with how they played and I think I got a solid game out of NYCFC. And so tonight, I think we'll see Orlando City starters for a good amount of time as they try to get kind of a really good grasp on what this team is and what it's going to look like next week.
Paul has been on the beat with the Orlando Sentinel for about a year now, so he'll bring great perspective to the broadcast in the first half. We'll lose him for the second. He's got to write the game story, make deadline, but we'll take advantage as we can of his expertise on Orlando City. These teams will meet in 2 weeks' time, March 13th at BBVA Compass Stadium. Should be a great matchup on a Friday night on Unimas. So a little bit of a sneak preview. Doesn't seem like either coach is too worried about tipping his hand.
You know, it's interesting. I actually asked Jason Kreis about that when these two teams played, when NYCFC and Orlando City played, because they're playing in a week's time. And he said, look, we've got to get these teams ready. We can't worry about keeping things close to the vest or playing any mind games. Right now, it's all about preparation, and I think that holds true today. Orlando City just can't afford to not play its starters and hope to not give Houston a good idea of what they're going to see in a couple weeks. They just can't afford to do that. I think Houston's in the same boat. You know, new coach, new system, getting guys integrated. You want to put them out on the field and get those minutes and really as an organization get an idea of what you need to fix going into the start of the regular season.
Let's jump right into those starting lineups, beginning with Orlando City under fifth-year head coach Adrian Heath. Donovan Ricketts, the 37-year-old goalkeeper, is in goal. The back four from right to left. On the right, 20-year-old Portuguese youth player Rafael Ramos. Center backs Sean St. Ledger, who was released by DC United a few weeks ago, jumped immediately to Orlando City, still on trial, could try to secure a contract with a good performance tonight. Next to St. Ledger, Aurelian Collin. Dynamo fans know him. Good rivalry with Sporting Kansas City over the years. He was traded part of a 3-player day for Orlando. They acquired 3 players on the same day. In addition to Colin, it was Tally Hall from the Dynamo and Amobio Kugo from Philadelphia. The left back is Breck Shea, another Texas native from College Station. The last few seasons in England, been playing left back with the U.S. national team. He'll be the left back tonight for Adrian Heath. 4-2-3-1 for Orlando City. The center mids holding tonight, Amobio Kugo and Darwin Seren. Seren just 25. He's already the El Salvador national team captain. Big assignment for him tonight. 3 in front of them, Eric Avila, veteran of MLS. He was signed by Santos Laguna and then loaned to the season for Orlando City. MLS veteran, enter his 8th year in the league. To his left, a household name, Kaká, the legendary Brazilian, now 32 years of age. A huge purchase price for Orlando City, but a huge Brazilian population, a Brazilian owner, a natural fit Kaká, wearing the purple this season for Orlando City. On the left, the reigning USL Pro MVP, he set a goal-scoring record with 20 goals last year. Kevin Molino, 24-year-old, who already has 12 goals and 29 caps with Trinidad and Tobago. Up front, another young player on this Orlando City team, Brian Rochez, 20-year-old from Tegucigalpa, 6 caps already for Honduras. A big signing, a lot of rumored interest from Europe, but Orlando City got a signature. Meanwhile, for the Houston Dynamo, very similar lineup to one. They got a 2-1 win against New York City FC on Wednesday. Just one change as Raul Rodriguez left with a twinge in his hamstring. Tyler Derrick is in goal, the back 4 from right to left. Kofi Sarkodie, Jermaine Taylor, David Horst, who comes in for Rodriguez after filling in well the other night. And the left back is DeMarcus Beasley. 2 holding mids for the Dynamo head coach Owen Coyle. It's Ricardo Clark and Luis Garrido. Lionel Miranda gets his first start in some time. He'll be on the right side. The attacking mid is Boniek Garcia. He'll sit underneath Will Bruin, and on the left is the captain, Brad Davis. So we'll see how this lineup works out for the Dynamo. Maybe a 4-4-2 at times, 4-2-3-1, depending on how the game is going.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch Houston the first night. I thought they were a little bit more direct than they might have liked, but again, in preseason, sometimes you tend to kind of adjust to how the game is going, what works best against who you're playing. You're kind of feeling things out and saying, okay, you know, Orlando City plays with 5 in the midfield. How are we going to be able to get our numbers? Maybe today they look to get wide a little bit more, get Beasley running, especially to counter the fact that Orlando City likes to press its outside backs really high up the field.
Just underway from Charleston, the Dynamo and Orlando still in contention for the Carolina Challenge Cup. 3 of the 4 teams in contention heading into the final night of the tournaments. There's Donovan Ricketts at the back, 2-time MLS goalkeeper of the year. And there's Aurelian Collin.
It's the 3rd starter Orlando City's tried on the left side of the midfield. Carlos Rivas, a Colombian, started the first game against DC United. He got injured. It's been Luis Neal the last couple games, and now we're seeing Eric Avila there on the left side. I thought maybe they would play Kevin Molino on the left side. Kaká tends to float that way, but it looks like it's Avila on the left, and we'll see Carlos Rivas for the first time since that DC United game. Later on tonight, he's expected to play about a half hour tonight.
Big signing from Deportivo Cali, coming off a shoulder injury, but yeah, one final chance. Of course, the Orlando game on Wednesday called due to rain and lightning in the area after about 25 minutes, a 1-1 game. And I think a bittersweet end of that game, or just a bitter end of the game, with Orlando conceding an equalizer just seconds before the game was stopped.
Yeah, convenient home field whistle there, right? No, I mean, I think it was a tough outing all the way around. Even if they had played the whole game, the rain was coming down so hard, it was freezing cold. It wasn't the prettiest soccer already, but Orlando City fans will probably take away from that Breck Shea got on the score sheet, scored a goal from Kaká. A lot of these guys that Orlando City brought in with the idea of getting a really, really strong attacking team have been producing in the preseason. Breck Shea has scored. Kevin Molino has scored. Kaká has 2 goals and 3 assists in what amounts to about 4.5 games so far. So you've got to be happy if you're an Orlando City fan seeing these goals come from the guys that you're paying the big bucks to put it in the back of the net.
Another whistle from our referee, Mark Kedlisic. He'll be the man in the middle tonight. Dynamo and Orlando. Dynamo lost the opening game of this tournament, got in late on a Friday night from Houston, had the early game on Saturday, maybe a tired team, gave up a late goal against the run of play to Charleston, but they rebounded with a 2-1 win against New York City FC. And Coach Owen Cole raved about the quality of the goals from Boniek Garcia and Brad Davis. So the Dynamo on 3 points, Orlando City on 4 as the Lions gain a free kick.
It's fun to see Brad Davis up close. He never wastes the ball. He's just so calm, so confident, so deadly with almost everything he does. Just pure quality.
Entering his 14th season in MLS. Longest tenured player with one team. It's his 10th season in Houston. 1 year more than teammate Corey Ash and a longtime trio in Real Salt Lake, Beckerman, Morales, and Ramondo. Here's Boniek Garcia on the ball. Now it's Beasley. Beasley in front of Davis, and good instincts there from the 4-time World Cup veteran. Now Lionel Miranda joined the club early February from Independiente in Argentina, 2.5 years there. And now Bruin watches it past Colin, picked up by Ricketts.
One thing I'll be keeping my eye on tonight, just for what this team's going to look like, Darwin Sarin steps into the starting lineup, replacing Cristian Higuita, the young Colombian who picked up a slight injury. Sarin himself coming back from surgery. He broke some bones in his face playing for El Salvador. He's been working his way back. I think he's a really good player. I think it's taken him a little bit more time to get his fitness, get his comfort back on the ball since he's been out there. But he's a guy who's going to be fighting for that spot in the middle next to Okugo all season long. A quality player, was one of the best players this summer for El Salvador in the Gold Cup, or rather the international tournament they were playing, the Central American Cup in the U.S.
Yeah, CONCACAF very well represented tonight on both teams as Bruin lost out in the middle of the field by Amobi Okugo. Here's Eric Avila. Back to Okugo, a fixture for Philadelphia the last few seasons. Had some aspirations for Europe, ultimately acquired via trade by Orlando City. Avila, good first touch, but Taylor there to deal with it. Good tackle from Clark. And it's a throw into Orlando. Paul, you've had some great work in the Sentinel the last few weeks. One of the questions that Adrian Heath was asked was, is his starting lineup set? And earlier in the week, it seemed like maybe it is, maybe it's not, but he wasn't too concerned about it. That seems to be a question. What other questions do you think are looming for Orlando just 8 days from its opener against New York City?
To me, the two biggest questions are still about the lineup, and the first would be center back. Right now we're seeing Sean St. Ledger on the ball. He's technically still a trialist here in Orlando. Like you said, was cut from DC United earlier this offseason, and he's been in camp. I think he's earned a contract. They're still finalizing some paperwork. Once that gets done, he'll be signed to a deal. He's a guy who's trying to hold off Seb Hines for a starting spot in the middle of the defense. But if I'm Orlando City, I'm a little bit worried that hasn't been locked down yet. You want to get that partner next to Relly and Collins settled. You want that back four to start to gel a little bit. And right now I still think there's a question mark hanging over who is that other center back going to be. Could Seb Hines actually end up being the guy we see in 1 week's time? The other question mark would be up top. Brian Rochez, the young Honduran DP, he's been the starter the last couple weeks. They also have Martin Patterson, a Northern Ireland forward. He started a few games. I think right now Rochez has put himself in front for that starting job. He's got such a great amount of talent. Very raw because he's young, but boy, this kid, when he gets on, he can score goals. We saw him do it for the Honduras under-20s for CONCACAF qualifying. So to me, that's still the two questions that we're looking to answer. And I think if Rochez just has a solid performance again tonight, he'll probably lock down one of them. And like you said earlier, St. Ledger has to have a strong performance tonight to hold off Seb Hines.
Good analysis from Paul Tenorio. It was Lionel Miranda on the corner kick for Houston. A good battle between David Horst of Houston and Aurelian Collin of Kansas City. Horst scored a set-piece goal against Kansas City in August, his first goal in a few seasons, but those two will battle throughout the nights. Good skill in the ball from Rafael Ramos, just 20 years old from Portugal. And he signed last July, part of the affiliation between Benfica, one of the Portuguese powers, and Orlando City.
Yeah, for you MLS fantasy fanatics, Rafa Ramos might be a good pickup for you. He's a right back that likes to get forward, very skillful, just $5.50 in the fantasy on MLSsoccer.com. I may have been doing some research earlier today. But, you know, he's an exciting player. Despite being a little bit smaller in stature, really powerful on the ball. Like I said, likes to get up the sideline, get balls across. You're going to see him venturing very, very high up the field, not just tonight, but in a couple weeks' time in Houston.
Played with Benfica B in the UEFA Youth League. 4 appearances last year with Orlando after coming over in the summer. There was Darwin Seren, 25-year-old El Salvadorian. 23 games last year. But we mentioned all the CONCACAF representative, Jermaine Taylor, a fixture for Jamaica. DeMarcus Beasley, of course, for the U.S. Ricardo Clark had a good run. Luis Garrido with Honduras. Brad Davis for the Dynamo. Will Bruin as the flag comes up. But just from these starting lineups, you have at least a dozen CONCACAF internationals.
Kevin Molino with Trinidad and Tobago, a player I think a lot of people will kind of get their eyes opened up to, not just in the MLS season, but this summer at the Gold Cup. He's a player who's come a long way. A lot of MLS fans know Dom Dwyer. He set the USL record for goals when he was with Orlando 2 years ago. Kevin Molino broke that record last year, 20 goals, also led the league with 9 assists. He was playing in the number 10 spot. Now he'll slide out to the wing. Obviously, Kaká is the natural number 10 for Orlando City. But those two have combined really, really well this preseason. Probably the biggest bright spot of the entire preseason is how quickly Molino and Kaká have taken to each other. He's a guy who's got a chance to be the newcomer of the year in MLS. And that's not just me talking. Dom Dwyer has said it. Adrian Heath has said it. The future is bright for Kevin Molino.
Yeah, delayed call from a referee, Mark Kedlisic. As Miranda went down, Aurelien Collin always mixing it up, walking the line, a 2-time best 11 selection. Apparently Kansas City did all they could to try to keep him last year, offering different contracts, renegotiating, but in the end, a trade went through, sending Collin a fixture for Kansas City the last few seasons to Orlando, and Adrian Heath got that veteran presence on his back line. Here's Brad Davis set to take it. Goes wide right, Kofi Sarkodie here in the 11th minutes. And the flag comes up, free kick Orlando.
Should be an exciting couple weeks here for Orlando City. Obviously, this week coming up is a big one for them. You know, it's been interesting to watch the excitement grow in the city. I think there's a little bit of trepidation from the biggest fans worried about kind of the outside things, but for the most part, the excitement around the game, Orlando City's obviously sold 50,000 plus tickets, 40,000 plus tickets, I guess is their last update. I'm sure they're up close to 50 now, and trying to get to that 60,000 mark in the first game at the Citrus Bowl, but just a lot of excitement in the city. At the Sentinel, where I work, we've picked up on that excitement, actually putting out 4 special sections this week ahead of one game. It's a lot of content to write, but I think it's a big part of showing the excitement in the city. We're going to have a really cool, actually extra edition, kind of a rare thing for the newspaper to do, so that fans have something to grab a hold of as they're leaving the home opener on Sunday, which I think is pretty neat. But you know, it's been exciting for me, as somebody who's watched MLS since 1996, to be in a city at the time when they're getting a new team and kind of seeing how the game has grown since I was a young kid in Washington, D.C., rooting for Marco Echeverri and Jaime Moreno and those teams growing up. So it's been a pretty neat experience for me to cover Orlando City these last few months as they've built an MLS roster.
Orlando treating the event like a Super Bowl or an Olympic Games next week. The marketing campaign from Orlando City is Fill the Bowl. They've used that hashtag, and found out a few moments ago there are over 43,000 seats sold. The Citrus Bowl holds just over 60, so with a good push late, could have a sellout on the opening game. That's the Sunday afternoon, a doubleheader that day on Fox Sports 1, in addition to a opening game from ESPN. So 3 Sunday games to open the weekend. It should be a great opening weekend of games. Of course, the Dynamo against Columbus Crew on Saturday night at BBVA Compass Stadium. Tickets still available for that game, HoustonDynamo.com. But Greg Berhalter and Columbus, I think a lot of people were surprised by their success last year. Had a rough exit from the postseason against New England, but they did a lot of things right last year. Here's Horst. A little too much on that one. It's a throw-in now for Ramos.
Ambitious ball, but it was the right idea there. You'll see Orlando City rotate a lot. They want numbers up.
And here's Bruin. Wins it. Top of the box. Inside Clark. Clark took some contact. And Orlando able to clear. But great work from Bruin initially. You'll know he'll do the dirty work. Works hard against the center backs. But I think you see him there shaking his head. Not enough on the ball as he tried to slip it to Clark.
Yeah, you get a giveaway in the middle of the field like that. Usually you want to punish a team at this level. A little bit heavy on that second touch there. I thought a good recovery from Orlando City's back line considering where Darwin gave the ball away.
Yeah, Bruin always putting in the hard work at the front line. You saw it last year against DC United, a 1-0 win that ended a long losing streak. He and Omar Cummings combining after Bruins pressure forced a mix-up between Birnbaum and Amit at the back. Still scoreless. We're in the 14th minute. Dynamo and Orlando City. Matt Peterson with Paul Tenorio from Blackbaud Stadium on Daniel Island outside of Charleston, South Carolina. Okugo through the middle. Here's Molino. Kevin Molino wide left. Here's Kaká. Scored a great goal from around that vicinity a few nights ago. Slowed down by Clark. Kaká once more. In the end, too much, but Rochez trying to keep it alive, and maybe the best attacking sequence so far, Paul.
No doubt, and you can see what Orlando City wants out of Kaká. They want him combining, running at the goal. They've had to learn a little bit about how he wants to play. In this later stage of his career, I think after he was at Milan the second time, he started to play a little bit deeper in the midfield, and I think he liked it a little bit, just how often the ball was on his foot. He did a lot of that at Sao Paulo while he was on loan at the end of 2014, and he came here. You see him now dropping deep towards the left side to pick up the ball. But what Orlando City likes about that is when you see Kaká coming at you, that opens up a lot of space for the guys around you. Breck Shea and the overlap created some space there, and that allows guys like Rochez, Kevin Molino to get some good looks at goal. Maybe a little bit too much from Kaká on that ball into Rochez, but the idea was there, and you're starting to see that chemistry grow a little bit. But Kaká's going to cause some nightmares for some back lines this season in MLS.
That was more good work between Will Brew and Boniek Garcia forcing the turnover. In the end, couldn't take it the other way. Beasley thought he was fouled by Molino. Now a break here. Brian Rochez into the area. Rochez tried to thread the needle to the overlapping Rafael Ramos, but good position from Luis Garrido, the young Honduras international, to break up the play.
Two Hondurans going at each other there. I would have liked to see Rochez maybe have a shot at goal there, even from a tough angle. Didn't think there was much in the box. But there you see what happens when Rafa Ramos gets forward. A good little player coming out of the back.
Davis with Clark. You see the extra bit of skill for Davis there. He's pinned in the corner. A lot of guys would thump it forward. He took the short pass through the middle, and Dynamo retained possession. Yeah, you were speaking of Kaká, some interesting quotes from Adrian Heath saying, we liked him to be further up the field, but we're learning his style of play.
And it's a trade-off. They're not going to give him too many defensive responsibilities if they can avoid it at times. Let him be a little bit of the outlet. Try to force him up the field, have him on the ball in the final third as much as possible, but with a player of his skill, you're not going to argue when he's dropping back to find the ball because you have faith that he's going to set things up for the team.
Garcia to Sarkoty. Here's Bruin arriving late, and Collin does enough to clear to midfield. Good work on the right side. Boniek Garcia to Sarkoty, and a good service from the fifth-year right back out of Akron, Kofi Sarkoty. Avila for Orlando City. Now Breck Shea, a starter for the U.S. the last two games. A defeat at Chile and a 2-0 win against Panama.
I've been interested to see a lot of people say that they don't have long-term faith in Breck Shea at left back for Orlando City. I thought he was actually pretty good for the U.S., especially in the second game, in the more normal 4-2-3-1 that they ran.
And that's an ideal scenario there As Derek has the near post covered, but full head of steam. Kaká with Shea to his left, 2 versus 2. That's exactly what Adrian Heath wants.
Exactly what you want out of Breck Shea at left back right there. And I'm excited to see later tonight when you add Carlos Rivas to the mix on that side what happens going forward, because Rivas is somebody who could end up being one of the fastest players in Major League Soccer. But this is exactly what you want to see out of Breck Shea. Overlapping, good ball there. I think he got caught in between deciding what he was going to do. Maybe a long-distance shot from an angle or chipping that in for a header. Maybe would have liked to see a little bit better service, but that's exactly what you want out of Breck Shea, overlapping on the left side.
Derek with the goal kick for Houston's had a good preseason, trying to win the #1 starting job. He and Joe Willis, the primary competitors for that position. Derek started a final 9 games last year for Houston. Willis behind Bill Hamid in D.C., so we can relate to Tyler Derrick's patience as he sat behind Tally Hall, but very similar experience and age in MLS.
Willis is a good player. You saw how much DC United was missing him last night, obviously, with Hamid still out. They had a tough one in the CONCACAF Champions League, but I was in D.C. still when Willis came in as a rookie. Good story, really good guy, comes from the St. Louis area. And he stepped up big when DC United needed him to come in when Hamid was out for an extended period of time. I think he's proven he can be a #1 goalkeeper in MLS.
Off the throw-in. Good pressure from Okugo on Garcia. Now Clark has to push it all the way back to Derek. Yeah, Willis making it 4 St. Louis natives on the Dynamo. He joins Will Bruin, Brad Davis, and center back A.J. Cochran. Beasley with the throw-in. This will be a good test for him tonight. He went about 65 minutes a week ago against Charleston, 90 minutes for the first time this preseason on Wednesday. So Beasley now 32, who of course played every minute the U.S. was at the World Cup, but a bit different in a preseason setting than in the World Cup in Brazil.
Just a tad.
Good touch from Davis. Here's Luis Garrido. He started twice for Honduras at the World Cup as well. Now it's Lionel Miranda. Sarkoty. Horst with Taylor. These two often started for the Dynamo last season at center back. Raul Rodriguez, a twinge in his hamstring against New York City FC about 30 minutes in on Wednesday, so precaution tonight, he will not play. That's Sean St. Ledger, 30-year-old from England. 37 caps for Ireland as his grandfather's Irish. And now Rafa Ramos. We've talked about it briefly, Paul, but the partnership, affiliation between Benfica and Portugal and Orlando, how legitimate do you think it is? It seems like it's off to a good start, but how often do you see situations like that with 1 or 2 players coming per season?
No doubt. I mean, I think it's an important partnership for Orlando City. Obviously, they've got 2 players on this roster that they brought in from Benfica, Rafa Ramos, Estrella, the defensive midfielder who's on the bench tonight. In addition, their front office and their coaches went over to Benfica earlier at the end of the USL season as they were kind of transitioning over, just to observe what Benfica did, to understand not just what they did coaching on the field, but a lot of what they were doing in youth development, how they were bringing players along. Benfica is known not just for producing with its senior team in Portugal, but they produce a lot of very good young players and sell them for a lot of money. They've done it for a very long time. So anything Orlando City can glean from that when it comes to homegrown players, I think is a big deal. So, I think this partnership is one that has a chance to grow, not just in sending players over, but really in educating Orlando City's youth coaches and its senior coaches as to how to run a team at the highest possible levels and to produce top-class homegrown players, because I think ultimately that's the goal here in MLS over the next decade, is to show that the U.S. can produce talent from its own backyard. Just one homegrown player on the roster right now for Orlando City and Tommy Redding, but certainly they'd like to see that number go up as they come along further in MLS.
Bad giveaway, Rafa Ramos. Here's Boniek Garcia running it right at the D. Wide right to Miranda, just not enough quality on the pass. And that's been a recurring theme tonight. Orlando City turning it over in a bad spot, but the Dynamo not executing well enough to make them pay.
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought he maybe should have come a little bit faster in the attack there. He was waiting for the overlap. Didn't put St. Ledger in a position where he had to choose between stepping and moving off the ball. St. Ledger was able to play right in between the two and then sprint out on the pass.
Midway through the first half, Houston Dynamo, nothing. Orlando City, nothing. Both these teams in contention for the Carolina Challenge Cup. 12th annual tournament here in South Carolina, sort of the standard bearer as these preseason tournaments are now popped up all over the country. Portland, Austin,
Arizona.
Yeah, Tucson hosted 2 tournaments. They do a great job down there in Tucson. Davis with the service. Ricketts got a hand on it, and somehow, well, the flag will come up. But a dangerous set piece that time for Brad Davis, and maybe some communications issues at the back, but all for naught with the offside.
Yeah, called the offside. I'm not sure what happened with Ricketts there, whether he just lost sight of the ball for a second and looked like he had to adjust his body really quickly just to get a hand on it and went off of Rafa. Fortunate to see the flag go up there. But, yeah, maybe not the best communication. That's a little sign of a preseason right there. Just a little bit of rust on set pieces.
Donovan Ricketts, 6'5", such a great wingspan. He can get to almost anything, so if he has trouble with it, you know, it's a very dangerous set piece. Here's Ramos. You see the confidence going forward from the young right back. Now it's Kaká. Kevin Molino. 20 goals last year in the regular season, 5 more in other competitions. 25 last season for Orlando City for Molino.
Right there, another good indication of why Breckshea is such a good fit at left back for Orlando City. The whole midfield had rotated over. The switch still needed to happen, and it was Breckshea on the ball. Houston did a nice job of shutting it down, so they had to work backwards again. But you can see why they want outside backs that have a mind for going forward.
Orlando City with more of the possession early on, which might not be much of a surprise, considering they only played 25 minutes on Wednesday with this group. Many of these Dynamo starters played 90 minutes, so maybe a little more fatigue in Houston's legs. Tyler Derrick under pressure. Now it's Davis. Colin, not afraid to get forward and handle the ball a little bit.
Good active play from him there.
Ramos, back to Colin. Yeah, it has to be unique for Colin as well. For so long in Kansas City, he looked to his left and see Matt Beasler there. A good partnership between those two. One of the best defenses in MLS last few seasons. Another turnover at midfield. Good win by Taylor. Here's Boniek Garcia running at Colin. 1 versus 3 now. Boniek still on the ball. Wide right. Will Bruin puts it away. What an unbelievable play by Boniek Garcia. Driving right through the Orlando City defense and then setting up Bruin for his first preseason goal.
We've seen that happen 1, 2, 3 times for Orlando City. Giveaway in midfield, counterattack. This time Houston takes full advantage, buries the ball, gets the lead. Interested to see what happened here at midfield that caused this turnover. It looked like maybe a bad touch. Just one touch sprung the ball there.
Yeah, Taylor stepped in front and won it, but what a master class from Boniek Garcia. Maybe the replay doesn't give it full justice, but one of the most technically gifted players in MLS. Now 95 caps for Honduras, and you see it there. Once he gets going, so good with the ball at his feet. The Orlando defenders kept backing off. He took advantage, and then such a cheeky little dish off the outside of his right foot for Will Bruin, and Bruin has a goal under his belt here in Charleston.
Not an easy task to hold off Aurelian Collin like that, I can promise you. And the challenge from Kevin Molino as well to be able to play that ball across the goal.
Now Kaká, wide left. Good first touch. Rochez just pulls it wide of the far post, but maybe the best chance thus far for Orlando, nearly answering within 30 seconds. The 20-year-old Honduran Brian Rochez off a good feed from Kaká.
And you're seeing how often Rochez works himself into good position. He's a dangerous player. a handful for any back line, and we've now seen him get behind once or twice, and that one he didn't miss by much on the far side with not much of an angle. So he's starting to give himself some good opportunities here. He's going to want to bury one to leave the right impression on Adrian Heath, who knows a thing or two about scoring goals himself.
Rochez, another player from the football factory that is Tegucigalpa, Honduras. Boniek Garcia from there, as is Alex Lopez. Many other Honduran national team players. But the Dynamo grabbing an early lead somewhat against the run of play. Orlando's had more of the ball, I would say, but a good win at midfield from Taylor, and then Boniek virtually did all the rest. Bruin with the tap in into an empty net, but spectacular play from Boniek Garcia, emulating his namesake. Boniek, the great Polish international. Reason Boniek's dad gave him that name. Now it's Boniek in behind, Colin on his chest. Boniek running at goal. Hard challenge from Colin. The referee is going to point to the spot. So a few minutes after Boniek sets up Will Bruin, he draws a penalty on Colin. And the Dynamo with a big chance here to go up 2 inside the first half hour.
And this will probably be what they want to see the least right here, a straight red to Colin in a preseason game. Not even a half hour in. They're trying to see their starters for 80, 90 minutes. Now they have to change the way they play. They have to bring in a sub probably at some point to adjust the system. Can't be happy to see a straight red in a preseason game, even more so than giving up the penalty.
Yeah, the Dynamo had a similar situation in Tucson. Jason Johnson shown red for getting his arm up in the face of Norberto Paparanto. And you see Owen Coyle speaking with the fourth official here. But for the immediate future, here is Brad Davis, the captain, set to take this penalty. And Davis, no mistake, goes to his right, the opposite side of Ricketts, and Houston with a 2-0 lead on the half-hour mark.
Definitely not the start Orlando City wanted. Like you said, for a long run here, they were dominating possession, had a couple good chances, couldn't find the back of the net. Suddenly, you lose the ball in the midfield, a goal happens, look to recover, and then now you're down a man, down 2 goals.
So Boniek Garcia, a wonderful 5-minute burst from the Honduran talisman. Production last year not quite to his 2012 levels, where I thought he was a contender for newcomer of the year in MLS after coming over in June. But he's traveled so many miles to and from Honduras, all over the world for games. Many people are expecting a big season from him after maybe he got his first extended rest over the offseason in a long while.
We'll see how Orlando City responds. Now, like I said, I expect maybe a quick substitution here to try to get 4 on the back line again. We'll see who they sacrifice out of the midfield in order to do so. But not an ideal situation. Right now, Amobi Akugo slides back into the back 4. Has experience doing that, obviously, with Philadelphia. But, for a team that was trying to get a good look at the starting unit ahead of March 8th against NYCFC, and after losing a game really in the middle of the week, this is just not an ideal scenario for Adrian Heath and the Orlando City staff.
Yeah, Colin one you'd expect to be fit. He's played so many games over the years. Seems like an absolute professional, but not ideal to get a combined 50 minutes out of his final 2 games in the preseason. Now Miranda trying to work with Boniek Garcia. Orlando wins the ball back. St. Ledger just in front of Brad Davis. And now Ramos. Garrido with Clark. Clark, good quick play forward right to Boniek. Bruin running past him to the right, and now Beasley will slow it down. Dynamo in front. A great run from Boniek. Led to a Bruin tap-in and then Brad Davis penalty. Here's Beasley towards the back post just beyond Miranda. Late arriving is Sarkozy, and Kaká back there to clean it up. Avila. Clark with the footing. Kaká forward. Molino back to the Brazilian. Kaká trying to find Rochez, but Taylor in a good spot. Heath earlier this week also, Paul, he mentioned the players should learn to trust Kaká more, even in tight spaces. And as we said, encourage him to get higher up the fields. And the goal we saw a week ago Saturday where he started on the left, that vacated space you discussed, and then a good 1-2 with Molino.
Yeah, again, I mean, you can see him here. He's kind of deeper in the midfield. These are those moments where maybe you lose a little bit not having him high up the field. They're going to want him higher up there. Kevin Molino slid in a little bit to try to be the option. But all of this is going to come together more and more as these players get used to the 4-2-3-1 system of Adrian Heath. And it'll be Eric Avila who has to come off the pitch as Orlando City looks to get that four-man back line again. It's a trialist that they have in here now. This is the mystery player Orlando City fans read about on my blog. I believe that he is Cesar Mena, a Colombian center back, but still trying to confirm exactly who this player is. Great size, you can tell you that right away. But this is an unfamiliar face for Orlando City fans and for myself as well. My first chance to see him play, he kind of appeared out of nowhere at practice the other day. So we'll see. Thrown into the fire right away for Orlando City.
I was really hoping Paul Tenora could join us in the booth, and he coming in, and he's worth his weight in gold for moments like that. Intrepid reporting from the Orlando Sentinel. The mystery trialist, maybe not as much of a mystery as the Orlando City technical staff hoped.
I spent a solid 7 minutes before coming in this booth doing a Google image search.
And now a potential head injury on the field to the referee blows the whistle as the Dynamo were set to break down that right side. It's Sean St. Ledger who gets up quickly, but really no risk taken by the referee Mark Kedlisic. You never really know with the head injury how serious it might be.
I think it's a positive thing to see how quickly they whistle plays dead now. Just goes to show the further education of head injuries and the dangers that go with staying on the field after taking a hard knock to the head, having concussion-like symptoms. I think we've moved on from calling them that and just calling them a concussion. So I always like to see the quick whistle in situations like that to make sure a player is okay.
St. Ledger appears to be okay. Played at the 2012 Euros for Ireland. Scored their only goal in that tournament. Long list of clubs over in England: Ipswich Town, Millwall, Leicester City, Middlesbrough, and Preston North End. Joined Orlando City around February 10th after he didn't gain a contract with DC United.
And really, Orlando City looking for a specific type of center back to pair with Colin. As we talked about, he likes to take risks. We also saw tonight that he can get himself in some trouble. They need somebody that can play on the ball in the center of the back line in this possession-oriented system.
Good skill from Miranda. Pass Kaká.
Usually that Meg's going the other way around.
Miranda now just 22 years of age. Excited to be here from Independiente as Boniek Garcia combines with Beasley. Boniek Garcia was obstructed a bit. Referee says play on. Now it's Molino. Very athletic, very active. But Orlando City unable to break this Dynamo back line thus far. Interesting, Paul. I think both these teams have similar geographical advantages for recruiting Latin American players. We talked about all the CONCACAF talent on both these teams, but similar climate, similar location. I think for Houston, especially with the Hondurans and other South Americans flying in home, flying back for international games, having that shorter direct flight is an advantage, and the same applies for Orlando with the South Americans.
No doubt. And, I think we're so quick to praise the big European talents that come in, and for good reason. I mean, Steven Gerrard is Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard is Frank Lampard. But for so long, those European clubs have gone to South America and found the top talents in countries like Colombia and Venezuela and Brazil, obviously. And I think that it's an important part of the growth of MLS that teams in this league start to recognize that as well and do their due diligence scouting in those countries and trying to find these players at 19, 20, 21 years old and not at 28, 29 when they've been around the block a couple times and played in different spots and maybe don't have the legs that they had and certainly don't have the resale value that a player like a Carlos Rivas, who led Deportivo Cali in scoring last year, could potentially have for Orlando City if he comes here to MLS and has a big season. So, to me, I think there's just such great value in trying to find the gems in South America, in Central America, and to develop them here. And I think it's only going to help the quality of MLS over the next few years as more teams devote more resources to doing just that.
Good work there. Molino to an overlapping Rafa Ramos, the Portuguese defender now serving from his left, and a corner kick to Orlando City. But great skill between Kaká, Ramos, and Kevin Molino.
Said Ramos' name an awful lot tonight. Very active on the right side.
One thing I noticed last Saturday, he was going up against David Villa, and he was not backing down. He was very much talking a lot to Villa. Very, no love lost between the Portuguese against the Spanish all-time leading scorer.
No doubt. If anything, actually, I'd say from Rafa Ramos is he needs to learn how to control that temper a little bit. He's picked up a few more yellow cards in preseason than they would have liked to see, but you also kind of love that fire in the guy, especially considering the type of player he was playing against in David Villa. And I think Villa was a bit surprised and had to kind of try to assert himself against Rafa Ramos to teach the young kid a lesson if he got a chance. But he's certainly not one to back down from any sort of challenge, and I think that he's going to be a really important player for Orlando City this season. He's been the one player that started on the back line every single game this preseason, so clearly he has a lot of value, and he's getting pushed every day because Tyler Turner, the U.S. under-20 right back, is here on this roster as well. Another good player, maybe not as consistent right now, but when you have that type of competition within the roster, I think it elevates both players, and I think that's why Rafa Ramos has had such a good preseason. He's constantly looking over his shoulder and trying to hold Tyler Turner away from his starting spot.
Good moment captured a moment ago by our cameras. DeMarcus Beasley and Kaká sharing a moment. Two amazing resumes between those two players as St. Ledger holds off Bruin momentarily. Now the Dynamo forward wins it back, serving towards the back post. Dangerous ball, but Boniek couldn't get on the end of it. Boniek asking for a corner kick, and Houston will get it.
Nice run from Bruin there. Good strength to hold him off on the sideline and get around St. Ledger to get that service in.
Most people know Kaká's resume, but 2007 World Player of the Year, part of the Brazil 2002 World Cup team. Champions League with Milan, La Liga titles, Serie A titles. There was a few years run there where he was right in the mix, best player in the world, running the show for AC Milan.
No doubt, and once fetched the largest transfer fee in the history of the game. Not a bad thing to put on your resume either.
Davis short. Leonel Miranda back to Davis. Davis looking for a closer runner. Boniek was nearest. Sarkelli pushes it wide to Taylor. Dynamo up a man after the Aurelien Collin red card, which led to the Brad Davis penalty goal. So Houston up 2 goals, and with the man advantage as Taylor switches it wide to the far side of the field and Shea heads it on. Some might realize this, but Kaká, the last World Player of the Year not named Messi or Ronaldo, way back in 2007. And since then, 4 World Player of the Years for Messi, 3 for Ronaldo.
Quite amazing to be able to watch those two players in their prime as a soccer fan going at it. I don't know if we fully appreciate, really, just how good those two players are and kind of what they'll be considered in the history of the game when we look back in 2 decades. The fact that they were playing in the same league for rival teams and going at each other as often as they did, it's been fun to watch, but it also puts into perspective how good Kaká was, considering, and I believe he beat out Messi for the Player of the Year in 2007.
Well, the first real disappointing moment for the night for the Dynamo comes here in the 42nd minute. Brad Davis exits the game. He gives the captain's armband to DeMarcus Beasley. So
never want to see a guy like that maybe tweak something here in the preseason. Could be just precautionary.
Yeah, Davis talking to head athletic trainer Theron Enns. They glance towards his left leg. But Davis, who converted the spot kick after scoring on Wednesday, played a lot of minutes this preseason. Still standing on the near sideline, and Rob Lovejoy preparing to enter here at the end of the first half. Here's Kaká.
Great ball from Kaká.
Yeah, excellent delivery, seeking out Brian Roches.
And you see there Shea having a quick word with Kaká, trying to ask him, I think, where do you want me to go at that point? They made the run up the left side together. Shea didn't get the ball and then kind of came inside, and Kaká's space was closed a little bit before he looked at that chip to Roches. So still trying to figure things out between the two of them, but a pretty nice sequence there for Kaká looking for Roches.
So Brad Davis out of this game. Dynamo opened their season a week from tonight at home against Columbus Crew. St. Ledger run over by Lovejoy, so the very eager substitute rookie season gained a contract about a week ago. Greensboro, North Carolina native, played 4 seasons at UNC, comes in for Davis here.
Haven't seen much of Lovejoy. I saw him at the Combine. I thought he was a good player. Not surprised to see him earn a contract. Certainly will be wanting to make an impression now.
Yeah, you talk with Matt Jordan, the Dynamo GM and VP. He remembers Lovejoy back in the 2011 national final as Carolina won, and Jordan says he was one of the best players that day. So that was 4 years ago, as Lovejoy had some injuries in North Carolina that maybe slowed his college career down, but a good player, has 2 good feet, which you like to see from any winger. Bruin.
St. Ledger looking for the foul there out of Bruin and got it. Bruin a little bit exasperated how that whistle could happen.
Yeah, Bruin's been called for a few fouls this half. He's working hard, tracking back. But some big bodies out there calling already sent off for Orlando, and there's St. Ledger dealing with Bruin. And a good tackle from Boniek Garcia. Now it's a 3-on-1. Miranda to the right, Bruin on the left. Here's Miranda against Ricketts. Back onto his left. Miranda, and makes it 3 for Houston. Outstanding play by Boniek Garcia to win the ball. And then he runs the break, an amazing skill by Lionel Miranda, feigning a shot with his right, pulling it back to his left, and then the Argentine, a cool finish. And Boniek Garcia just running the show this entire half, and Miranda with the second goal of the preseason.
You won't see that often, Kaká giving the ball away in any part of the field, let alone in his defensive third. He maybe was expecting to get a little bit more from the referee there, maybe a little bit of that DP respect. But I thought it was a good tackle from Boniek. I don't know if you whistled that.
It looked clean to me. That's one great thing about Boniek. Many may not realize he's not just a good attacking player. He's not afraid to mix it up and maybe walk the line a bit on some challenges. That was definitely a hard physical challenge, and it led to a goal.
And I think it shows no matter what level of player you are, when you're in that part of the field, it's better to get the ball off your foot sooner than later. And not a great half for Orlando City here today. Maybe I'm bad luck here in the booth for Orlando City.
You are more than good luck. You're great information. We were delighted to have you here. Paul Tenorio of the Orlando Sentinel. He's been here in Charleston for close to 2 weeks following the beat. You'll read his work all season long at theorlandosentinel.com. Thanks again, Paul.
Appreciate you having me, and yeah, hopefully you guys read the Sentinel, and I got a big story coming out tomorrow about Adrian Heath, a big profile of the coach, so hopefully you guys get a little bit of insight into what makes Adrian tick.
Thanks again to Paul Tenorio. We've reached halftime. Dynamo in front 3-0. Goals from Will Bruin, a Brad Davis penalty, and late on Lionel Miranda. We'll pause for halftime and be back for the start of the second half. Halftime score, Dynamo 3, Orlando City 0.
the 2015 Subaru Forester. The most award-winning small SUV with better fuel economy than competing models. And the certainty down the road you expect from a Subaru. The 2015 Subaru Forester. It's a whole lot to love.
Come see what everybody loves at Cruise Subaru.
And maintain the love with complimentary maintenance included only at Cruise Subaru on Rivers.
In Mount Pleasant, we don't limit happiness to an hour. We let it stretch out wide. From sunrise tea times on world-class courses to afternoon walks through history and evenings at some of the country's best restaurants. All this in just 5 minutes to the beach and downtown Charleston. Set your watch to happy time, y'all, and come on over.
Welcome back to Blackbaud Stadium here in Charleston. Thanks again to Paul Tenorio with the Orlando Sentinel. For a straight insight on Orlando City in the first half, I'm Matt Peterson. I'll be taking you through the duration of this game. A 3-0 halftime lead for the Houston Dynamo. Will Bruin scoring the opening goal after a great run from Boniek Garcia. And then it was Brad Davis converting a penalty after Aurelian Collin was sent off with a straight red card, as Boniek got free and behind. And then Lionel Miranda taking a Boniek Garcia feed and scoring his second goal of the preseason. So Houston in a great position, up 3-0 with the man advantage. It looks like no changes for Houston. One concern, though, is Brad Davis left with an injury. It looked like maybe a precaution, maybe an injury. At the end of the first half, Rob Lovejoy took his place, so that's the only change thus far for Houston. Sarkodie back with David Horst. And now Beasley wearing the captain's armband since Davis's departure. Lovejoy trying to feed Bruin, and it's Molino unable to control on the far side. They are expecting a sellout tonight, or 5,000 here at Blackbaud Stadium, but with one ticket usable for both games, some will come for the first, some for the last, some for both. The nightcap and finale in this tournament is the host Charleston against New York City FC. Boniek back to Clark. Clark from distance on his left, no problem for Donovan Ricketts. Dynamo entered this game with 3 points. A win would put them at 6 points here in the Carolina Challenge Cup. Orlando City on 4 points. A win in the nightcap, they'll win their home tournament. If they draw or lose and the Dynamo hold on to this lead, Dynamo will win the Carolina Challenge Cup. The Orlando City trialist over the top, looking for Rochez, and Taylor back to Derek. St. Ledger in the air against Boniek. Bruin applying pressure, and Ricketts away. Kaká harassed by Garrido. Back to Seren. And his ball too far in front of Brek-Shea. 48th minute, Dynamo playing up a man after the Collin red card. Total control here at Blackbaud. It is in many ways against the run of play. Orlando City seemed to control the early 20 minutes or so of this game, but the Dynamo had one moment of brilliance from Boniek Garcia, who set up Bruin, and that sort of changed the tide of the game. Orlando had a chance just about 30 seconds later as Kaká put in Rochez, but he couldn't beat Tyler Derrick. Now Bruin testing St. Ledger near the corner. And then after the red card and subsequent penalty goal, the backbreaker at the end of the first half to Lionel Miranda. Goal, excellent skill, feigned the shot with his right, faked out a defender and the goalkeeper Ricketts, and then ultimately put it away on his left foot. Sarkodie with the throw-in. There's Garrido. Taylor, now Beasley. Bruin. Good hold-up play, now wide, Lovejoy. The rookie out of North Carolina. Around Ramos. Good pressure from Lovejoy, but it's a goal kick. Orlando City trying to fill the bowl on March 8th as they host New York City FC in the first MLS game for both teams. Trying to push for a sellout over 60,000 at the Citrus Bowl. So help fill the bowl. Go to Orlando City's website. Get your tickets today. Meanwhile, the Dynamo host Columbus Crew Soccer Club Saturday night at BBVA Compass Stadium, 7:30 kickoff. Tickets available, HoustonDynamo.com. Good ball from Miranda. Nice dummy by Boniek Garcia. Left it for Bruin. Bruin lost it to Orlando City. Kaká with Breck Shea. Shea running at Sarkoti. Molino with Kaká. And they'll call a foul on Sarkoti, who obstructed Kaká. Free kick Orlando City here in the 50th minute. Shea. Good service towards the back post. Lovejoy, a missed clearance, but second effort does the job. It's a throw into Orlando City. Not as many Orlando City supporters as we had last Saturday. They had a few hundred in that far corner of the field. Beasley able to clear. Bruin jousting with the Orlando City trialist. Now it's Miranda with Boniek Garcia. Bruin in front. Bruin staying onside. Boniek finds Bruin, makes a run himself. Bruin slows it down. Now it's Lionel Miranda back to Sarkoti. Miranda. And Shea with the block, and he'll concede the corner kick. Miranda has taken a few set pieces for Houston this preseason. You can tell the technical staff believe in his set piece abilities with Boniek Garcia and Brad Davis on the team, among others, including Giles Barnes, but Miranda's had his chances. There's another one, a low one towards the front of the six, past Taylor, and cleared by Amobi Okugo. Good skill from Kaká. Shoulder to shoulder against Boniek, and it's a Houston throw-in. Miranda back to Boniek. Maybe Kaká just a bit frustrated after he took some contact a moment ago from Boniek, and he just sort of grabbed him around the arms. Free kick Houston. And Kaká will receive a word from our referee, Mark Kedlisick. Miranda, a poor switch, settled by Ramos. Great sliding challenge from Clark to win it from Darwin Seren. Lost on this near side, here comes Breck Shea. Shea pulls it back. Not the best ball, but it bounces off Taylor. And a good block by DeMarcus Beasley. That was against Kevin Molino. Looked like Taylor was there in position to settle or clear, but it bounced off his foot right in the path of Molino. Now Kaká. Cleared Taylor. Here's Miranda. And Okugo clearly trying to get away with that right hip call for the foul. Now Bruin grabs his right leg as he tried to spin away from his marker. Bruin down on the turf about 30 yards from goal. The only thing that could put a damper on this night for Houston would be an injury. Brad Davis left late in the first half with a possible ailment. Now Bruin down as he tried to spin away from the Orlando City trialist. Bruin will stay on. No need for the trainer, Theron Enns, to come on the field. We discussed it a bit a week ago, me and Sebastian Salazar. Bruin will play through pain. He's done it quite a bit in his career. A few foot injuries in his early MLS career. Will play on after that knock. Good touch from Miranda. Molina comes charging through, and it's a Houston throw-in as Horst did enough Tanaka's opposite number off the ball. And now Garrido called for a foul on Kaká. Free kick Orlando. Kaká, 2-time Serie A Player of the Year, 3-time UEFA Team of the Year. And now the number 10 with the delivery. Great ball just behind Breck Shea. Shea shouting towards Kaká as if to say thanks. And the two are on the same page there, but just behind the big left back. And pinpoint service from the Brazilian. Kaká spent last year, the second half of last year, back at Sao Paulo. Good turn of pace from Rob Lovejoy. Service here. Here's Bruin onto his left, and it's blocked by St. Ledger. You see the speed there. Rob Lovejoy bursting down that left side, got in behind. Good delivery to Bruin. Bruin, who said he wants to use his left foot there on the half volley. Hit it well, but a block by St. Ledger. So a nice break down that left side from the rookie. And Greensboro, North Carolina native, Rob Lovejoy. In the end, the offside flag came up. I don't know if it was on the early play or after the fact, after the block, but it sure seemed like Lovejoy was onside to start. Now it's Taylor. Good in the air to win it over Roches. Sarkody and crossfield, now Lovejoy. Garrido comes in strong and he fouls Kevin Molino. Molino already 12 goals in 29 appearances with Trinidad and Tobago. Orlando's first MLS signing. They signed a few last year to USL contracts that gave them an MLS contract as well. Molino was the first for Orlando. Good ball, wide left. Here's Breck Shea against Sarkody, cutting it back, a few step overs. Now right through the middle, and a good spot from Luis Garrido, and he and Shea clash in the end. Now they're getting into it. Shea and Garrido. Here comes Tyler Derrick and David Horst. Derrick face-to-face with Kaká. So a hard challenge from Garrido. Shea stayed in it as well. And the rivals mixing it up here just before the hour mark. It was a clearance from Garrido right at the edge of the box after Shea's heavy touch. And then Shea stayed on the ground. There may have been some contact between Shea and Garrido, but in the end, Kaká got involved, as did Horst and Derrick. Both teams coming to their teammates' aid. Referee's trying to sort it out. Our center referee, Mark Kedlisick, getting some instruction from the fourth official. Any chance of a replay? Yeah, and what happened after? So, Kedlisick pulling over Breck Shea. He'll be shown a yellow card. And now they're walking over towards Lionel Miranda, maybe mistaken identity for Miranda. Maybe we'll put the card away entirely. Miranda's shown a card. Seemed like Luis Garrido was closest, Maybe it was some retaliation from Miranda, but they both stay on the fields. As we see the replay, Horse there, Garrido, Derek comes in, there's Kaká. Derek pushing away Garrido. Miranda not in the picture, but maybe something off the ball, out of our sight that the fourth official saw. Shea and Garrido into the book. In the 60th minute, Houston leading 3-0. Here's Shea. Back to Sean St. Ledger, the 30-year-old Englishman. And Okugo escapes a hard challenge from Rob Lovejoy. Wide right, Rafa Ramos. Kaká. Well-weighted ball back to Ramos, but a great sliding clearance by DeMarcus Beasley. Beasley announced his retirement from the national team in December as the throw-in comes towards this near sideline. Good sliding claim by Tyler Derrick. 121 caps for Beasley, fifth most in American history. 8th in assists, 9th in goals. There's Sarkodie. Right under the foot of Garrido. Now a chance here for Orlando. Kaká running at Garrido. Garrido sizing him up. A little push in the back. Kaká goes down. Ref says play on. Looked like Garrido gave him a little nudge in the lower back. Kaká lost his balance, but Kedlisic, the referee, let play go on. And after it does, Rob Lovejoy hauled down. Free kick to Houston as Orlando City will make a sub. So Kaká will exit this game. He gives some applause to the crowd. I'm sure a bit frustrated, especially the last few minutes. Mixing it up with Garrido, but the Brazilian will now prepare for a week from tomorrow, March 8th against New York City FC. His replacement, a man Paul Tenorio talked about a bit in the first half, 20-year-old Colombian Carlos Rivas, who Tenorio said could be one of the fastest players in MLS this year. Clark. Out wide, Beasley. Dynamo up a man after Aurelien Collin received a red card, challenging Boniek Garcia in the box in the first half. A red card penalty really changed the course of this game. Now Sarkodie, good service intended for Lovejoy, but broken up by St. Ledger and claimed by Ricketts. Garrido gets caught in between, and then an arm comes up from Kevin Molina. Garrido down, clutching his face. And it's a red card. Just moments after coming on, a substitute, Carlos Rivas, is sent off, and Orlando City will be forced to play 9 versus 11 for the final 27 minutes. So Garrido, who has been involved in a lot in the center of the park, was caught in between two Orlando City players. And then in the eyes of the referee, Mark Kedlisic, a substitute Colombian Carlos Rivas may have swung an elbow up around the face of Garrido. Garrido receiving some treatment from Theron Edens, the Dynamo trainer. But Rivas could not believe it. Signed in January with Orlando. Helped Deportivo Cali win the Superliga Colombia. 12 goals last year in 29 games and a reported transfer fee of $1.5 million. Garrido will walk off. So after the red card to Rivas, Brian Rochez exits this game, and he'll be replaced by Danny Mwanga. Mwanga now 23 years of age. Originally the #1 overall pick by Philadelphia in the 2010 MLS Super Draft. And now some other things going off away from the ball. Final preseason game for both teams, but there's been several skirmishes in this one. As far away from the ball, a few players mixing it up. Kevin Molino, Breck Shea for Orlando City. Will Bruin, DeMarcus Beasley for the Dynamo, among the players having a friendly chat. And a few changes for the Dynamo. Garrido taken out of this game, replaced by Nathan Sturgis. And then just a moment ago, Jason Johnson, the Jamaican, comes on for Will Bruin. So Bruin scored the opening goal off the great feed from Boniek Garcia, replaced by Johnson, and now Sturgis on for Garrido for the final 25 or so minutes. Sturgis away, hard challenge that time by Sean St. Ledger on Boniek Garcia, but he got the ball, and Orlando City will play on. Shea away from Sturgis. Sturgis recovers well. Dynamo in possession. Now it's Boniek, grabbed from behind by Amobi Okugo. Boniek has had quite a night. 2 assists, drew a penalty, and a red card in the same play, and has just been a handful for Orlando City throughout the game. Dynamo playing 11 versus 10, the 3-0 lead they've held since halftime. Both these teams fly home tomorrow. Orlando, a shorter flight just down the coast. Dynamo travel back to Houston. Will train all of next week, preparing for Orlando City at home at BBVA Compass Stadium on Saturday night. Here's Beasley. Won by Molino. Given away by the trialist. Square ball by Sturgis. Now it's Miranda. Sarkoti, good service. Headed away by St. Ledger. Falls to Beasley. He tries his luck. It's right off of Ramos. It was on a tee for Beasley, and he didn't hold anything back as he tried the left-footed half volley from 15 yards. Looks like another substitution coming very shortly for Houston. Zach Steinberger getting some final instructions. Throw in Orlando. Ball cycles back to Sarkoti. Good performance from the Dynamo defensive group tonight. Not too many chances for Orlando City in this one. Miranda. Wide, Boniek. And there's Sarkoti as Orlando drops off with the one-man disadvantage. Or make it 2-man now as Rivas was sent off. So 11 versus 9. Basically 2 blocks of 4 for Orlando, and then the goalkeeper Donovan Ricketts. Miranda forward. Here's Johnson. Boniek running off his left. Johnson. Good switching ball. Maybe too much on it. And Lovejoy could not get there in the end. Good idea from Johnson, but a bit too heavy on his ball over the top. And now we'll see one more change from Owen Coyle. Ricardo Clark goes 70 minutes in the final preseason game. And he makes way for Zach Steinberger. Steinberger, number 8 overall pick this year out of Butler University. 4 years with the Bulldogs after trying to make it overseas in England with Middlesbrough and then in Slovakia and Germany. Impressed the Dynamo coaching staff at the Combine and I think went higher than many people expected. But all 4 draft picks for the Dynamo have signed. First time in Dynamo history, a club that's 10 years old has signed all, or actually 4 draft picks. As Steinberger signed the day of the draft, and then last week it was announced Omar Ballo, Rob Lovejoy, and Taylor Hunter had each signed as well. $11 versus $9. Dynamo content just to keep the ball with the 2-man advantage. Collins sent off in the first half. Carlos Rivas sent off about a minute after entering this game. Very similar to Jason Johnson, who was issued a red card against Portland back in February in Tucson a few weeks ago. And a very similar call as Johnson's arm had come up and his elbow came up around the face of Norberto Paparato of Portland. Similar situation here as the arm and elbow of Carlos Rivas came up around the face of Luis Garrido. Now another sub, Jermaine Taylor. He'll come off. He played 90 minutes on Wednesday against New York City. Goes 72 minutes tonight. He's replaced by A.J. Cochran. So a good preseason for Jermaine Taylor. Looks a very good candidate to start opening night against Columbus Crew a week from tonight. Beasley over the top. Lovejoy's in behind, waiting for runners. Lovejoy at the end line. Back through the middle, headed away by Sean St. Ledger. Falls to Boniek. Here's Sturgis with a good switch. Lovejoy's done well since coming on. Used his pace on that left side against the young right back, Rafa Ramos. Steinberger. Cochran. Wanted Beasley, not enough on it. Won by Ramos. Lost by Molino. Good pressure from Steinberger and Sturgis. Now Sarkody, another change forthcoming for Houston. Chandler Hoffman set to come on. Perhaps for Boniek Garcia. Cochran over the top, but the offside flag comes up on Rob Lovejoy. And Sarkody telling Cochran, calm down, keep it on the floor. It's a 11 versus 9 situation. And there's the sub. Hoffman on for Boniek, a virtuoso-type performance from the Honduran. Dominant displays, especially in that first half. 2 assists for Boniek. Also drew a red card and a penalty. Great performance a week out from the opening day of the 2015 season. Ramos with Danny Mwanga. And now Johnson draws a foul on the unnamed Orlando City trialist. Mwanga last season with Colorado, previously with Philadelphia. Johnson draws another foul, again on that unnamed trialist. Cesar Mania out of Colombia was Paul Tenorio's guest, the Orlando Sentinel beat writer for Orlando City. That was his research and his guess, but For now, just a trialist. Cochran with Beasley. Lovejoy and Johnson. Houston enjoying this 3-goal lead in a 2-man advantage. Sarkody for Johnson. Headed away by the trialist. Steinberger. A few more substitutes forthcoming. Looks like Alex Lopez will join the party next for Houston. Miranda, and the offside flag comes up on Hoffman. In some ways, it might benefit both teams for Orlando to be able to replace their red-carded players with substitutes in this preseason setting, but apparently Pro, the referees organization, mandates red cards be honored as they're intended, even in a preseason setting. So that's why 11 versus 9 will be the way this game will finish. There's Miranda, a good shift from the Argentine, scored a great goal at the end of the first half, his second of this preseason. Pulling it from his right to his left before scoring. And he's replaced by Brian Moya, a trialist who spent time last year with the Houston Dynamo U23s. And then DeMarcus Beasley exits, gives a nice cheer to the crowd. He's replaced by Alex Lopez. So Lopez and Moya come on here in the 77th minute for Beasley and Miranda. Now a bit of miscommunication between Cochran and Lovejoy. Comes off Mwanga back to Tyler Derrick. Houston in position to go to 6 points in this tournament. They won this tournament a couple times in their first 2 years, 06 and 07. A good omen as they won MLS Cup as well at the end of that year. They'll have to wait and see how Charleston does against New York City in the nightcap. A win for Charleston, they'll win this tournament. A loss or a tie for Charleston, and Houston will be the Challenge Cup champion after falling in the tournament's first game against the Battery. Basically a passing drill at the moment for Houston, going 11 versus 9. Horsch with a big switch. Good settle by Lovejoy. Inside Lopez. Lopez onto his right. Sarkody with acres of space on this near side. Back Sturgis. Lopez. And it's all the way back to Horst. Of course, these two teams will play March 13th in Houston, a Friday night on Unamas. Tickets still available at HoustonDynamo.com. But it'll be on much different terms. You would not expect the game to end 11 versus 9. But the Dynamo can take some confidence from their display tonight. Sturgis over the top. The flag comes up. That time it was Chandler Hoffman offside and behind Ramos, but after a slow start tonight for Houston, a great end of that first half, spurred by Boniek Garcia, and Houston got all 3 of its goals. Ricketts for St. Ledger. Okugo lost it to Johnson. Johnson running at St. Ledger. Good defending by the Englishman. Now it's pulled back to Shea. So Orlando City hosts New York City FC, 5 o'clock next Sunday, the 8th. They're trying to fill the bowl and have over 60,000 fans at the Citrus Bowl for the inaugural MLS game for both teams. Then Orlando comes to Houston the following Friday, March 13th. Before returning home to host Vancouver Whitecaps March 21st at the Citrus Bowl. It's a Saturday night. Here's Molino. Back to Seren. Ramos. Mwanga. Molino lost it. Sturgis does well. Now it's Hoffman. Looks like Rob Lovejoy has moved to a left back position vacated by Beasley as Lopez and Brian Moya stay high. Good switch, Steinberger. Lovejoy inside Lopez. 10 minutes remaining. Dynamo with a 3-goal lead and a 2-man advantage after a red card on each side of halftime. Lopez tried to thread it to Hoffman too long, and it's a Orlando City goal kick. Houston, their first 3 games, they host Columbus a week from tonight at BBVA Compass Stadium. They'll stay at home and welcome Orlando City the following Friday. Then they go to LA to take on the reigning MLS Cup champion LA Galaxy March 21st. Before they come back home March 28th to host the Colorado Rapids. 3 of their first 4 at home for the second straight season. Steinberger, too much contact in the middle, free kick. Drawn by Molino, and Orlando City will restart. So the Dynamo will end their preseason, and ironically, their only 2 losses against USL Pro competition. Here against Charleston a week ago, and the previous Wednesday against Austin. Mwanga towards the corner looking for Molino. It's out for a Houston throw, and this will be Orlando City's first loss of the preseason. They've drawn a few games, but it's been pretty good results early on in this preseason, and an unusual set of circumstances for Orlando City, going down a man in the first half, losing a center back, and a position probably not the deepest for Adrian Heath, using a trialist for the remaining 60 minutes or so after the call-in red card. Shea. Targeting Mwanga. Good hold-up play. Seren. Now Molino against Horst. Shea. Good touch from Seren, but won by Lopez. Looks like Lopez wanted advantage, but I'll pull it back and restart from midfield. Adrian Heath, Orlando City head coach. Very good career as a player with Everton, Stoke, Villa, Man City, Espanyol, Burnley, among others. He's been very patient waiting for his time with MLS. He came over with the Austin Aztecs back in 2008, 3 years there. That's where this ownership group thought they would launch MLS or try to join the top flight, but they moved to Orlando, and now Heath entering his 5th season at the helm after 4 years in USL Pro. Moya called for a foul. Free kick Orlando near the end line. But this week, Heath said tonight takes on more importance after Wednesday's rainout, where Orlando could only play about 25 minutes. And for Carlos Rivas tonight, expected to get 30 minutes for the first time since the preseason opener against DC United after his shoulder injury, but he only lasted about a minute before his red card. Seren. Molino wins a throw-in right in front of the Orlando City bench. Breck-Shea. Good win by Moya. Ledger away from Johnson, back all the way to Donovan Ricketts. Ricketts 100 caps for Jamaica, now 37 years old. Be amazing if he was still playing at 100. Lovejoy receives it from Hoffman. Now Sturgis called for a foul. Free kick Orlando City. These teams will meet only once in the MLS regular season. Houston shifting back to the Western Conference for the first time since 2010. So they'll meet only once in the unbalanced schedule. That's March 13th in Houston. Houston now will play FC Dallas 3 times this year for the first time since 2010. Cochran and Horst with acres of space as the Dynamo playing 11 players versus 9. Sarkodie now wearing the captain's armband after the departure of DeMarcus Beasley, who received it from Brad Davis, who left with what looked like a possible injury, walked off the field under his own power, maybe a precaution, maybe an injury late in that first half. Sarkodie for Hoffman. Hoffman takes a peek towards the center of the penalty area. Now he leaves it for Moya. Moya tried to tee it up. In the end, good defending by Amobi Okugo. Looked like Brian Moya, a Dynamo trialist, had an opening, but took an extra half second, and that gave Okugo time to recover. Shea long down the line. Mwanga challenges Horst. Seren back to Shea. Good work on this near side defending by Johnson. It's a foul at him, but good to see him not letting it be easy for Breck-Shea on this near side. After this game, the final game of the tournament, hosts Charleston Battery. A win, and they're the champions. Anything less, and the Dynamo are champions, as Charleston will face New York City FC. New York City with a point through 2 games after a draw and a loss. To this result, they have no chance of winning the competition. Here's David Horst. Sarkodie. Alexander Lopez. I'd imagine there won't be any stoppage time with this 3-goal margin. Lovejoy against Ramos. Good tackle in the end by Ramos. Now they're going to say goal kick as if it may have gone off Lovejoy. But a confident call from the referee Mark Kedlisick. Closing seconds here in Charleston. Okugo. Molino. Somehow slipped past both Lovejoy and Sturgis and draws a foul. Mwanga. Danny Mwanga. And Cochran there to block it out wide for a throw-in. We are now in first half stoppage time, and there is the final whistle. A good result for the Houston Dynamo. A tough final preseason game for Orlando City, and these teams will meet 2 weeks from time in Houston at BBVA Compass Stadium. 3 goals all in the first half. Boniek Garcia was the orchestrator, 2 assists, as Will Bruin and Lionel Miranda scored goals on either side of a Brad Davis penalty. Final score at the Carolina Challenge Cup, it's the Houston Dynamo 3 and 9 men Orlando City nothing, as Orlando City saw Aurelian Collins sent off in the first half and then substitute Carlos Rivas sent off in the second. The Dynamo with 2 wins and a loss in this tournament. Orlando City with 2 draws and a loss, their first defeat of the preseason. Thanks again to Paul Tenorio of the Orlando Sentinel for his insight on the first half. I'm Matt Peterson. Thanks for tuning in. The second game in this doubleheader will come up shortly, kicking off about 7:30 Eastern Time. New York City FC against the host Charleston Battery. A win for Charleston, they win the tournament. Anything less than that, and the Houston Dynamo are champions. Again, for Paul Tenorio, I'm Matt Peterson. Final score, Houston Dynamo 3, Orlando City nothing.